Today on Locked On Penguins, we look back on the season of Sidney Crosby, give you an update on the baby Penguins as well as the Wheeling Nailers, and check in on the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs so far. All that right after this.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Damp. You can follow me across all social media platforms at synonym for wet. Joined as always by the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow him on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can give our show's account a follow at LO_Penguins. And of course, as always, we appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Don't forget that we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. And if you follow us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that notification button. That way you can be among the first to know when we drop our daily Monday through Friday episodes. So the Penguins season is behind us, Hunter. We are in full off-season mode. And today we kick off our season in review series as we do every offseason. We will go through the roster and talk about all of the players that played for the Penguins in something of a significant manner. Obviously, those guys who got 1 to 2 games we'll mention near the end of the offseason at the end of this series, because there's not going to be a whole ton to discuss. But where else for us to start the season in review series than with the captain, number 87, Sidney Crosby. Makes history this year by breaking Wayne Gretzky's point per game season record with his 20th. He had a pretty spectacular year, only missing 2 games, recording 33 goals and 58 assists for 91 points. He moved into 9th all-time in points in the regular season with 1,687, eclipsing Joe Sakic, and he is only about 30 some odd points behind the one and only Mario Lemieux for 8th all time in regular season points in the NHL's history. Not only that, he captains Team Canada to a 4 Nations face-off victory. He continues to be Captain Canada. And at age 37, while he may not be what he was at 27, he is still easily a top 10 player in the National Hockey League, and he made sure this year that we all knew it.
Probably could still say top 5 right now with the way that he played. And I'll make this easy for everyone. My grade is an A+ this year for Sidney Crosby. He was tremendous all year. Were there a couple of times where his production dipped a little bit during a couple of big losing streaks, especially, Pat, in October, where they lost 6 in a row at one point? Yes. But he still was able to, at that point, turn it around, and still especially was tremendous to end the season. He ends the season with 33 goals and 91 points. The fact that he is still producing at this level at age 37 is ridiculous. Again, I kind of compare it to the Tom Brady effect with how effective he was towards the end of his career. And, these last 3 years, even at age 35, age 36, and age 37, just looking at the counting stats here, because I'll get into the data here in a second, Pat. Age 35 season, 33 goals, 93 points. Last season, 42 goals, 94 points. This year, 33 goals, 91 points. Even though they've missed the playoffs in 3 consecutive years, he is still at a 90-point pace in his late 30s. And why can't he do this again next year? Yeah, I know. Father Time is undefeated for most people, but that might not be the case, at least yet, with Sidney Crosby. You mentioned, Pat, he's now 9th all-time on the NHL scoring list, 36 points behind Mario Lemieux. That's all it's going to take to tie Lemieux next year, 37 to pass him. He is going to do that probably, if I had to say, by the halfway point of next season at the most. With the way that he continues to produce, he'll get 8th. And then after that, you have Steve Yzerman, who has 1,755 points. If he produces at the way that we saw him produce this past season, he will pass Yzerman at 7th. And then there's even an outside shot path that he could pass Marcel Dion at number 6. He has 1,771 points. And then you have Ron Francis at 1,798. That might have to wait until potentially the next season. But hey, you look at 1,687, 1,798. Yeah, it's probably going to be the season after. But I think when it's all said and done, he is going to be in the top 5 all time among NHL players in points. You also look at assists for next season, because we're just going to keep looking at milestones here. He's only one behind Steve Yzerman for tying for 9th all time in NHL history. After that, it's Adam Oates. He's 17 behind him. After that is Joe Thorne. Then you have Paul Coffey. He's going to keep rising the ranks with that one as well. And then even in goals, right now, he's 16th all time in NHL history. He's going to get into the top 15 next season, potentially into the top 14 if he passes Brendan Shanahan, who is 31 goals ahead right now. I love looking at the milestones because he's going to keep passing some absolute legends. You look at the underlying score this season. When he was on the ice, the Penguins had roughly 52% of the shot attempts, 73 goals for, 72 goals against, but I don't really look at plus minus that much. 52% expected goals for percentage, 51% high danger chances for percentage. When he was on the ice, the Penguins were driving offense. Yeah, I know, people. Breaking news on that front. This team was virtually a 1.5 line team for a good chunk of this season. And he was, again, driving offense on a nightly basis for them. He was so good, especially next to Rickard Rakell. They formed such a great partnership this season. Brian Rust was also great with him. And I can't wait to hopefully see more of Rutger McGroarty next season. I think he's going to make the team. You can also probably see Ville Koivunen on that line potentially, if whatever Mike Sullivan wants to do. I think he's also ready, of course. But A+ grade for me, man. He was great offensively. We all know his defensive game has fallen off these last few years. I know some people keep trying to say, Pat, they got to put him in the Selke conversation. He's got to get that award. Guys, no, he's not good defensively anymore. There was a time, especially during his prime years, where you could at least argue it like that had a little bit of merit. Now, especially at age, these last few years, especially 35, 36, 37, heck, even a little bit before that, he's not good defensively anymore, but you're not paying him to be that good defensively. He's still going to give you a great effort every night, but he is the engine of this team, and I expect nothing less heading into next season. He was tremendous. A+ grade.
Right there with you. You can't give him any other grade than an A+. It was a fantastic season for the captain. I will push back a little bit. I think he's still good defensively. I don't think he's fallen off. He's not what he was 5-10 years ago. There was a lot of merit, as much as people might not want to admit it, 5-10 years ago, that he could have at the very least been in the Selke conversation. Winning it, doubtful, but in the conversation.
Yeah, Patrice Bergeron winning that award every year. So
exactly.
Not going to beat that guy out. I think we'll disagree a little bit on the defensive part, which, hey, it's good that we've been disagreeing a little bit more lately. It makes for great hockey conversation. I still love Pat very much. But I think these last few years, I just do not think he's good defensively anymore. But again, I'm not trying to crap on him. Of course, I give him an A+ for this year.
Yeah, and basically all I'm saying is I think he's still somewhere between acceptable and good. He used to be great. He used to be great defensively. It was an underrated aspect of his game where you didn't think about it. That's how good he was at it. It was just another, there goes Sidney Crosby being great at something again. Who would have ever guessed that Sidney Crosby's great at something? Also, at the beginning of the season, he signs his 2-year extension. That kicks in this coming season, so he will have 2 more years on his deal as a Pittsburgh Penguin. The last thing I want to bring up, and this isn't so much a season in review as it is a looking ahead factor on Sidney Crosby. I do think this 2-year extension will not be his last. I do think he's probably going to have one more in him, whether it's a 1-year or 2-year deal, unless injuries or he suddenly has a falling off. It seems like there's a lot of good hockey left in the tank for 87. Plus, I know everyone continues to joke about it. I know everyone continues to bring it up, and I don't think he's ever going to leave. He is going to be a Penguin for his entire career. His idol is Stevie Y. Stevie Y did that. He wants to replicate that. But also, to our discussion from yesterday about all the comments Kyle Dubas made about the future of this franchise and where he wants to take it, I think that is what Sidney Crosby wants his final act to be. It might not lead to a championship. It might not lead to a deep playoff run, but he wants to be the guy, in my estimation, that leaves this place better than when he found it. Because if you think about when he came in, yeah, Mario Lemieux was here, and there were a couple pieces here and there that could help because they had begun their rebuilding process. But Crosby does not want to leave this team in disarray when he retires. He doesn't want this team to be at the bottom of the barrel. He doesn't want them to be in the basement. He wants to be able to, if I can make a great hockey Twitter callback, he wants to pass the baton before he leaves. So, yeah, it may not lead to another ring for Sidney Crosby in the NHL, but he wants to be the guy who has set the standard and will let the next generation of Penguins know this is the standard when you put on a Penguins logo.
I agree with that. And it's like something we talked about during our Monday episode, man. Like, he knew what was coming even before he signed that extension going into the final year of his old contract that basically just expired. He has 2 more years left on the new extension that will kick in, especially on July 1. But again, he knew what he signed up for. Kyle Dubas was probably very upfront about it. You could tell going into this season, they punted on this year. It was very evident based on the moves that they made on July 1. They signed Matt Grizzly to a 1-year deal. He plays in the top 4, gets all the top power play minutes after they bumped Erik Karlsson down. They signed Anthony Beauvillier to play top 6 minutes for a lot of the year. They get a second-round pick back. Really good move, by the way, for Kyle Dubas to get a second-round pick back for Anthony Beauvillier. Nice job that he scored last night for Washington because, of course he was going to score a big goal for the Capitals in the playoffs after being traded from the Penguins. But I think he won't see the playoffs this upcoming season, even though I know they haven't made any moves yet this offseason. I mean, I'm just going based off of Kyle Dubas's comments and what I think they're going to do this summer. I don't think they're going to get in. I think it's way more likely that he sees the playoffs at least one more time following season 26-27, when they're going to have upwards of 40 to 50 million in cap space. Evgeny Malkin's contract is up after next season. I think they're going to be really in the market for a second line center. I know we've gotten some comments about maybe moving Gino to wing for this upcoming season. It's an option, but we'll just have to see what they decide to do via the trade market. It's definitely an option. If I had to guess right now, I still think Gino is going to be the second line center next season, but it's definitely an option if you maybe want to get a little bit more out of him. But again, that's a different discussion for a different day. We can discuss that a little bit more in June and July and all that. But he is definitely someone that wants to keep the culture here well after he's gone. And I do think he, at least to me, outside of winning, which I know he cares, that's the biggest thing he cares about, rightfully so. But I do think he also very much cares about the culture of this team well past once he leaves. And I think he's trying to instill that in some of the younger players that have come up this year and some of the younger pieces that are going to be up next season and in potential future years after that. But again, he might be grumpy at times, but I still think he's going to hopefully see the playoffs one more time, but before he retires. Again, probably won't be this season, but I think after that.
Absolutely. So another great year for Captain Sidney Crosby. A+ grades from both of us. Who knows how long this is going to last. So while you still can, make sure you're appreciating the greatness that is Sidney Crosby. But that is going to do it for our opening segment. When we return, another quick update on the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins as well as the Wheeling Nailers as they continue their journey into the postseason in the AHL and the ECHL respectively. But before we get into that, we've got to tell you about today's first sponsor, and that is Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, with each 1 ounce serving having 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and the better for you unsaturated fats that help keep you feeling fuller longer. I've said it before, I'm on the go a lot. I'm in the car. I'm at my desk. I'm here in my little office quite a bit. And when I'm on the go, there's no better quick protein snack than Wonderful Pistachios. considering I have been working my butt off to stay in shape in my mid-30s, and that protein boost is absolutely fantastic and helps me in my goals. But if you enjoy cracking open the shells to get that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are always a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Welcome back in to the Tuesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp alongside the illustrious Hunter Hodes. And ladies and gentlemen, do not fear, do not adjust your calendars, because for the second postseason in a row, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins will be taking on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, the AHL affiliate of the Philadelphia Flyers, in the best of three opening round of the Calder Cup playoffs. The baby Penguins are going to be looking for a little bit of revenge because last year they lost both games and were swept in that opening round, giving an unexpected early exit to the baby Penguins in their quest for a Calder Cup. This year, same deal. They are taking on the Phantoms in that best of three opening series, and you could kind of see that they got a jolt in their final game from the return of a handful of players who spent some time with the big club down the stretch. They will be, unfortunately, without the services of Rutger McGroarty, who was hurt in Pittsburgh blocking a shot. But, and I know Hunter is champing at the bit to talk about this, Ville Koivunen is back, and buddy, he is back.
I mean, this was a man against boys on Saturday against Cleveland. He was zipping the puck around with authority in the offensive zone, especially during a second period sequence, which opened the scoring. He was just knifing through guys in the offensive zone. And it's funny, Pat, what 8 games in the NHL playing alongside Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin will do for a top prospect in this system. It looked like he had gained so much confidence from that first stint in the NHL, and he carried that over to the AHL. Like, he was, again, felt like he was just toying with these players, playing with his food is how I described it on Twitter. He was tremendous. And I know that the score sheet only says that he had 1 assist. Could have had way more with the way that he was playing, man. And I'm really excited to see what he can do in this series. I think, like, when you look at this AHL run for Wilkes-Barre, this is going to be the last hockey in the AHL that I think Ville Koivunen plays going into next season, because I do think he is ready for the full-time show in the NHL, at least right now. Obviously, stuff can change since it was only an 8-game sample size, but as of right now, I do think he's ready. But he was absolutely awesome on Saturday against Cleveland, and I'm excited to see what he can do against Lehigh Valley. This is the second straight year that Wilkes-Barre is playing Lehigh Valley, and you got to win this series. Like, I look up and down these two rosters. I think Wilkes-Barre, even without Rutger McGroarty, with the reinforcements that they got back now from the Penguins, I think Wilkes-Barre is a better team. I think they are deeper. I'm excited to see what Harrison Brunick can do. And this is also big for Yoel Blomqvist. Like, he's going to be the starter here. We saw what he did with a couple stints with the big club, this year. I really liked his first stint. The second stint, though, playing behind that defense wasn't good. And he also did not play well at all. Let's not kid ourselves here. He was not good in his second stint. But I want to see him really answer the call with this series. I'm not trying to put like such high expectations for Wilkes-Barre, but they should win this series. I think they are the better team, but it's, as we've talked about, these short series, especially a best of 3, can be so fickle because anything can happen. There's a lot of randomness that can occur. So it makes me a little bit nervous, but I'm excited to see what these players can do.
Absolutely. You brought up the Yoel Blomqvist portion of it. I will add this. I said it at the time. It was best for his development to go back down. I know everybody wanted their toy. They wanted it now, but no way would it have helped his development to play behind that defense for the remainder of the NHL season. It probably would have crushed his confidence playing behind that kind of defense. And to go to Wilkes-Barre to be the guy, or at least to get more significant minutes with a better team, can really help him develop. And now you want to see if he can take the next step going into the Calder Cup playoffs. You want them to be able to put the saddle on him for the majority of this run and let him guide them to a deep Calder Cup playoff run. 3-game series. It begins tomorrow night in Wilkes-Barre at Mohegan Arena at 7:05. Then on Friday, they head to Lehigh Valley, the PPL Center, at 7:05. And then if necessary, Game 3 will be Sunday back in Wilkes-Barre at 6:05 p.m. at Mohegan Arena. And for the Wheeling Nailers, they are waiting for their first round series against the Norfolk Admirals to continue, which they are down 2-0 after 2 games in Norfolk, getting shut out by identical 4-0 scores. But they will be getting some reinforcements for the rest of this series. Matthew De Saint Folie is back with the Wheeling Nailers, and so is Jack Beck. Both of those players had some solid success with the Wheeling Nailers this season. Beck with 8 goals, 28 assists, and 36 points in 36 games with the Nailers. Given the fact that they got probably their 2 worst games out of the way, and it's the only 2 games that they'll be playing on the road in this series because, let's be honest, minor league hockey, it's the Wild friggin' West, and the next potential 5 games of this series, and there will be at least 4 more, they will be at the WesBanco Arena in Wheeling, West Virginia. This is huge for 2 reasons. One, Wheeling had a solid season. They played very well this year under head coach Derek Army, who set the franchise record for wins as head coach. They obviously benefited from the organization's goaltending depth. They had a lot of help as well because Kyle Dubas in just 2 years, as well as Jason Spezza and Amanda Kessel, have done a good job of not only restocking the prospect pipeline, but finding these minor league free agents, these college free agents, and players who can help and make sure that these 2 teams are playing meaningful hockey. So for the Nailers, this is a massive opportunity for them to get back into the fight against the Admirals.
People are going to go after Sergei Murashov just because when you look at the stats, Pat, 2 games so far, 3.70 goals against average, 875% save percentage, but he has done everything in his power to keep Wheeling in these 2 games. Like, yeah, we've said on this show a lot that we think he's too good for the ECHL, and maybe some people are going to try to clown on us because, he has those numbers in the playoffs, but he's not getting any help. They're not getting legitimately any offense so far. You said it. They've been shut out in back-to-back games. None of the top forwards have done anything. And, Norfolk's goalie has also been fantastic in these 2 games. He has made some absolutely great 10-bell saves, and there's only so much Murashov can do to keep them in games. Like he has been. Like he's just not getting any help. But now they're coming back to Wheeling. It's going to be a great crowd there, as it always is. And I want to see the players really feed off of that going into the rest of this series now that it is in Wheeling. We've already talked about how it's a very weird format. 2 games on the road. All the next games are at home, but you got to use that to your advantage. You have the home ice now. Sure, you're down 0-2 in the series, but you have what it takes to come back. You have a goalie that's had a really good year. You've had forwards that have also had a really freaking good year, especially someone, Pat, like a Jack Beck, for example. I want to see him really step up in this series because, he's been great for Wheeling this year, but I still want to see him step up for them. So, again, that's what I'm really looking for the rest of this series, man.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to something that I brought up earlier about both of these teams, and this is going to be a big step in the development of a lot of these younger players in the Penguin system. Both teams now facing adversity. The Nailers obviously down 0-2 in the series with a chance to get back into it tomorrow night at 7:00 at WesBanco Arena.
And I want to see more from Finn Harding, by the way. I've really been tracking his progress this year. He's been great throughout this season. I like that he's been playing for Wheeling, but I still want to see a little bit more of what he can do on the back end for Wheeling now that they're at home. I'm really excited about him, and I know the organization is as well, especially if you read those pieces from Josh Yowie and a couple other of the full-time reporters, but I still want to see that great season translate now to the ECHL. Yeah, only 2 games, but I think he can also be a lot better.
And then right along with the Nailers, the Baby Penguins, they looked like they were on the fast track to compete for the division title. They were going to get a pass right into the next round and get to avoid that best of 3 coin flip in the opening round. Unfortunately, they did not have that happen. They slid down the stretch, and now they have to find a way to fight their way out of it. So putting aside all the numbers, all the points, everything else, all the hype, now it's time to see how a lot of these players respond to adversity. So tomorrow night, big night in the organization. Both the Nailers and the Baby Penguins will play. The Baby Penguins opening their best of 3 series against the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, and the Nailers continuing their Kelly Cup playoff first round series against the Norfolk Admirals. Down 0-2, big opportunity. It's got to be one game at a time. They got to find a way to fight their way back into it. So we will obviously keep our eyes on that and bring you the updates on this show for as long as both teams are in the postseason. But that will do it for our middle segment here on Locked On Penguins. When we come back, it's been a pretty entertaining first couple days of the Stanley Cup playoffs. We've got plenty to discuss. We'll take a quick look at the opening round series so far in the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs. But before we do that, we got to tell you about today's last sponsor, and that is FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here. Well, they are here now, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. You can do so much on FanDuel. They make it so easy, whether you're picking your favorite team to win, diving into player props, whether it's 3-pointers, steals, or assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. We're back here on the Tuesday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp alongside Hunter Hodes. And man, I miss the Stanley Cup playoffs in Pittsburgh. I miss them so much. It's so much fun. And this opening round has so far brought us quite a lot of drama. And the first place I want to start, Hunter, was last night. What did we say about this Capitals Montreal series? Both of us agreed that we're probably going to take the favorite in the Washington Capitals, but a 3-2 overtime win in game 1. The young Canadians, they're playing with house money and they know it. They gave them all they could handle in game 1, and it took an overtime winner from Alex Ovechkin to get the Caps a game 1 victory.
By the way, that's Ovechkin's first career overtime winner in the playoffs. He's now matched Sidney Crosby. I had to say it. I had to. We love Alex Ovechkin, great player, but I had to just say that to start out this segment just a little bit because I thought it was funny. But he actually had 2 goals last night. He was tremendous for the Capitals. I think he was the biggest reason why they won that game. You could tell the Canadians were a bit scared to start. They were a little bit spooked by the atmosphere in Washington, just playing in the playoffs for the first time a little bit. I mean, for a lot of these players, it's the first time they've played in the playoffs, but they really woke up in the third period. I thought they were brutally outplayed for the first 40 minutes, but right around the 5 to 10 minute mark in the third period, the Canadians opened up a can of whoop ass on the Capitals. They get the first goal, and then it was just complete domination after that. They got another one to tie it, and then Mike Matheson, former Penguin, he almost won it with 20 seconds left. He hit the post, and I would have loved to see the scenes in Washington if that one went in, because it felt like if that game went on for another minute or two, the Canadians were going to find a way to win that game. They were living in the Capitals' end of the rink, and Logan Thompson was trying to do everything he could, but the Capitals just weren't defending well. They really needed that intermission heading into the overtime, and what a feat it was to get that puck to Ovechkin, who was standing right alone in front of the net. Don't know why the Canadians were doing that there, by the way. You do not want to leave, in my opinion, the best goal scorer of all time standing alone in front of the net. He's going to make you pay every single time, and that's what happened. But the Canadians gave them a fight, and that's what I expect for this entire series. And I'll be curious to see what adjustments Marty St. Louis makes for game 2 later on this week before this series shifts to the Bell Center. Because if they can get a split in D.C., Bell Center is going to be especially rowdy. So I think it's the loudest rink in the league, and they have been waiting for playoff hockey to come back there for a while. Other than that, last night was just a tremendous night for the NHL playoffs. The LA Edmonton game was absolute cinema. LA was crushing them through 2 periods. The Kings were having their way. Oilers goalie Stuart Skinner was horrendous. And you have to think at some point the Oilers are going to fix their goaltending situation, right? Right? I mean, it feels natural, but maybe they never will because they're just going to keep running it back with Stuart Skinner. But then Connor McDavid decided to be like, yep, I'm going to put this team on my back. He was insane last night, man. That tying goal, the burst of speed, it was only Connor McDavid can do that, man. And there was another play where he whooped Anze Kopitar, and that's no slouch, man. Anze Kopitar, he might be a bit older now. He's still one of the best two-way players in the league. He went around him and dusted him like it was nothing to set up a goal. He goes around Mikey Anderson for another. He goes around Gavrikov to set up another goal for Corey Perry, who is kind of the ageless wonder himself at this point, the fact that he still scores. He did everything in his power to will them to a win. He tied it late in regulation. They come back from 4 goals down. And then Stuart Skinner kind of allows a weird knuckle puck into the net. Very weird goal. But that was one that LA could not afford to lose. They won it. But now game 2 is especially important. They need to go up 2-0 to really put the pressure on Edmonton going back to Edmonton later on in this series. The Kings, they're one of the best teams at home this year for a reason. They are very stingy, but again, they were great. They play such good man-on-man defense, and they were doing that for the whole game, but it only could go so far until Connor McDavid decided to go God mode. And that game ended at the same time as the Dallas one did. Colin Blackwell gets the game winner. I am so hyped for that series. It's been really fun to watch so far. And we're getting closer to Landeskog. He took warm up this time. He's off IR. I'm thinking game 3 at Colorado, Ball Arena, that's going to be cinema if he plays that game. It's going to be electric. But those 2 games were good. The Capitals game was fun. Winnipeg is now up 2-0. Connor Hellebuck is answering the call so far. Mark Scheifele has been great. Kyle Connor has been tremendous. And it's funny that Kyle Connor has been great, Pat, because I'm sure Team USA could have used him in the 4 Nations faceoff, right?
That would have been real nice, wouldn't it? Makes that decision look even dumber. One of the rare missteps by Sullivan at the 4 Nations faceoff. Didn't understand that move, but LA, they got the win. They're probably hearing footsteps though, so they got to get that game 2 win. Winnipeg, I will say this: I got to give props to St. Louis. I doubted them. They're down 2-0 in the series, but it does not feel like an insurmountable 2-0 lead. This doesn't feel like Winnipeg has a stranglehold on this series. It's still wide open to me. Vegas gets a very, very tight win over Minnesota. You got to give a hat tip to the Wild for really pushing a really good Vegas team that they are probably not as good as far as they could. We'll see what they do with that one. Toronto over the weekend makes it absolutely elementary against the Ottawa Senators. I still think
Ottawa fans blaming the refs there, by the way, in a 6-2 loss. Come on.
I do think at the end of the day, though, this is a bit of a growing moment for the Ottawa Senators. It's a young team. They're not used to the playoff experience. They're not used to the playoff atmosphere. They're probably going to maybe sneak out a win or 2 against Toronto, but they're going to learn an awful lot from this series and a potential series loss, and it's a team to keep your eye on. Carolina just absolutely overmatched the very undermanned Devils. Again, I want to see that team go into the playoffs healthy one of these years because there's so much talent and potential there. And then tonight, finally, we get the Battle of Florida. Tampa and Florida start their series. That one's going to be, like you said, Hunter, absolute cinema because it always is. But so far, man, first round of the playoffs, first few days, ain't no better tournament in sports than the Stanley Cup playoffs.
100%, my man. Can't wait for the Battle of Florida. The Battle of the Rats. That's what I'm looking forward to, man. Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk, looks like he's going to be coming back. Brad Marchand versus Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, Brandon Hagel, etc., etc. You got all the rats going at it. These 2 fan bases hate each other. These 2 teams hate each other. Big brother, little brother staring themselves in the face. They're the same height now. Who's going to blink first? Vasilevsky versus Bobrovsky, two players that are going to go to the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I can't wait. And then if you love late night hockey, by the way, my friends, Vegas, Minnesota starts at 11 o'clock tonight. So if you want to stay up till about 1:30, 2 a.m., you don't got to get up at the crack of dawn the next day, go ahead and do yourself a favor and do it. Hell, I might do it because I'm a sicko.
We're off to one hell of a start in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll obviously keep dipping our toe in and seeing what's going on, despite our Penguins once again not being invited to Lord Stanley's table. But that is going to do it for the Tuesday edition of Locked On Penguins. We appreciate you, as always, tuning in and talking a little bit of hockey with us here 5 days a week. But for Hunter Hodes, I am Patrick Damp. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. We'll be back with a brand new episode for you on Wednesday. We will take a look at the baby Penguins and the Wheeling Nailers results from tomorrow night to get you ready for those. And then we will also do another season in review. But for now, for Hunter Hodes, I'm Patrick Damp. Thank you, as always, for tuning in once again. We will be back on Wednesday.